Dandadan, episode 13 or episode 1 of season 2. So we finally have Dandadan back and kind of kicks off right where the previous season left off with Momo being attacked by these pervert old mans. And I really do like that even though she was attacked, she was still like looking for ways out. She been like had a burst of power at a certain spot and it allowed her to be able to escape them for a bit, and then when it seemed like she was going to get caught again, uh, the entire place collapsed and Turbo Granny was just kind of chilling there like, yeah, this place is all run down, you guys were trying to leave me behind, but here I am. I overheard and I came and hid in your book bag, and which is really good for Momo because Turbo Granny is always very protective towards younger girls. Like we've heard on the backstory that she had, where she always seemed to appear where younger girls were mistreated or were even put through hardships and eventually ended up ending their own lives and stuff. So it just kind of goes to show that even though she tries not to show that she cares enough to protect her without actually saying, "Yeah, I protected you." Um, but then as these creeps get chased off, Momo and Turbo Granny head back, and Momo asks her about like, "Yeah, so what's your opinion on the house? Because when I'm there, there seems to be like nothing there, or like the the spirit there or the ghost there, it's not really there." And Turbo Granny was like, "Well, that place is no bueno. Like that place is just reeks of blood. Probably it's been spilled blood for ages in there." And we do find out who the owners of the place are, and it's the Kato family. They kind of pull up to Gigi and Okarun as they're there, and they're kind of making Gigi and Okarun very uncomfortable, asking them questions about whether they brought in a medium to exercise the house again, or whether Gigi brought the medium to exercise the house again, and they try to play off that Okarun was Gigi's best friend, and they were just they just wanted to see one another, so Gigi went back to get him and bring him up, but like given that Gigi and Okarun just barely met, they kind of had to really prove that. And one of the ways that they prove that is that uh, somehow Okarun was able to say Gigi's favorite team for football, and that's because he had a poster of them in the wall. And but one of the things that I really liked during this whole interrogation was that Gigi was kind of put like in an uncomfortable position, and you could really feel it in the atmosphere, and because of the way they were talking to him, kind of demeaning him, kind of like provoking him to slip up and find him lying. Just have an excuse to be able to really hold him and lock him down. And he ends up getting caught because of Momo, and they know of Momo, so like once they figure out that Shinji was trying to hide the fact that he doesn't know that he knows Momo, they're like, "Oh, we just caught your lie," and it's like, "Well, that's it, you're done." So, but before I talk about any more, I want to really get into like a bit of the opening sequence and of the song, well, the opening for the anime. And I just really love the way the anime is using the visuals this season, where we have like the initial Okarun just seen through his POV, and as we're seeing it, it's kind of like all dark and or at least like of darker shading, but like once you see the glasses, whatever's in those glasses is usually a bit lighter, and who ends up being always in those in his glasses is Momo. So I really love how they're showing his affection and kind of like how he views Momo and how she just made everything brighter for him. Like even though the whole world around him is kind of darker, the one bright side he sees in the world is Momo. So she's kind of like his son, and he's kind of and as we go through the opening sequence, he's you just see him running with his hands or his hand trying to grab her or like grab at something. So it's like he is trying to reach out to get to Momo. He's trying to reach out for his son, and really really love the visuals. And one of the visuals we get to meet a character that's going to come relevant later in the season, the one with glasses. His name is Kinta. I cannot wait for everyone to really get to know Kinta, and he might be a bit divisive. We'll see and find out. Uh, but yeah, we also get to see Momo's maid outfit in the opening, so that's always cool. And I love that the ending of the opening is just Okarun finally reaching Momo, finally being able to hold her, and then he carries her onto the tunnel, through the end of the tunnel. So like he's kind of leading her to safety, leading her to the brighter side, and really great stuff. Um, we have Momo who shows back up, and man, when she shows up, everything just goes down because she comes in and she comes swinging, kicks and all, just from like kicks from the first season that we've seen a couple times. And man, the choreography when she's up against the leader of the Kito family, amazing stuff. Like hand movements, feet movements, just being able to see how Momo's fighting with her psychic abilities, being able to parry punches, parry things thrown at her, and actually be able to use it to throw things at her. And the Kito family here just kind of like, she has some strange power, but they end up throwing her through a wall in the end, and she's always with this great move, by the way, which kind of reminds me of the King Gun or something. I think that's what they call it. That move that Lucci used against Luffy, same positioning and everything, really great. Uh, so they get her through the wall, and then the ground just kind of like starts sinking, which is like, oh, we're in some trouble. Like we're finally able to see what's underneath the floor. And this has to do with the fact that one of the main tourist attractions for the city happens to be like this leftover skin from the Great Serpent, which in we find out because Momo went to visit a shrine that this Great Serpent has been preventing the volcano from erupting, and this Great Serpent was also the reason why they have the hot springs. So, but it gets a bit darker where this Great Serpent always had required a sacrifice. So people would sacrifice one of their their children to be offered up as a way to appease this Great Serpent, and in doing so, the Great Serpent will prevent the eruption from the volcano. And lo and behold, the Kito family have been the ones in charge of doing all these sacrifices, which is why the house reeks of blood, and which is why they always bring up people here, which is probably what uh they implied to happen to Gigi's parents, that they were used as sacrifices for the Great Serpent. And now that Gigi, Okarun and Momo were all there, they were gonna be used next as the sacrifice. So uh, they all fall down to the ground where this great serpent resides, and it turns out that the great serpent is not necessarily at the will of the Keto family, as they're doing this like ritual dances to like appease it, but they still end up getting attacked by it. And it was a really great shot when we first saw this great serpent. By the way, I think I held it, I put it up. Hopefully, you all can see it. And because this great serpent's not just necessarily a great serpent, we get a little like flashback or rewind to when Okarun was talking to Gigi about aliens in the train and stuff, and one of the things that was on the cover of it was this death worm that ate humans, which technically, if seen, was only up to be 2 meters long, but that's not the case with this one, as this one has been around for 200 years, being fed humans for those 200 years, so it obviously overgrew the normal range that it's supposed to be. And even in here, like, we see Momo's powers kind of like not be as effective, and when they try to hide in a house, they actually her and Okarun kind of have this this hurt or something is definitely going on with them, as they're both like kneeling down, almost like they can hear some sonic waves or something. Maybe the earthworm is producing some sort of sound that's preventing both of them from moving, but Okarun takes it the worst, as it seems like he's being overtaken by a spirit. And it doesn't look like Turbo Franny. So really interesting stuff to see who this other spirit is, and yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. A good comeback. There was a lot of great action, a good amount of action, a good amount of Lord exposition, and a bit of an interactions between Momo and the one guy that was telling her the story. So, who becomes relevant later on in the story. Really love how eerie the Keto family is made to feel, and I really enjoy how well paced this anime is. Not only does it have really great animation, but the pacing has just been excellent from the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode, and I'm really excited for more. I'll talk a little bit about the ending, which I really love the visuals for the ending too. Like, it was just kind of like a farewell, and showed us the crew kind of like in a school setting, almost like if it was like a school festival. So I know, like, during the summer there's a lot of festivals that happens in Japan. So I really enjoy seeing the crew in that kind of like school festival type of set, and then just seeing them dance with one another. Really great visuals for the end as well. And yeah, great return for Dandadan. 9 out of 10 for me. Clevatess, episode 1. So this is one of those that I just happened to say, oh, looks cool, let me check it out, and it ended up being quite good, and more than what I expected. So Clevatess is kind of tricks you into what the premise is. It starts off with this girl Alicia kind of just living her childhood, playing with bugs, swinging her stick around, and her father is working in the fields, just tending to their vegetables. And we get kind of like an early exposition dump of what's going on with Alicia finally asking the father, like, "Hey, this is our where we live, Ethia, right? But what about this dark stuff around the map? Why is it all dark? Why don't we know about what's happening or what's there?" And the father kind of has to explain to her that this is kind of known as the Dark Continent because anything there is kind of like unknown. They haven't been able to like clear it or come to understand what's there. Like the few things that they do understand about this world is that there's dark beasts in the Dark Continent, and they're very dangerous. And even if you keep going further into the Dark Continent, you'll eventually meet up with their guardians, which is known as like the lore, the four lore beasts. One is for the north, one is for the south, one is for the west, one is for the east. And he kind of warns her like the reason why we don't necessarily always go there is because every expedition that has gone there has come back in failure. And he points out to his leg where that is now a wooden leg now, not necessarily an actual leg. And Alicia just being like the the kind soul, the naive child that she is, kind of like proclaims that, well, I'm gonna become a hero and explore it and make it known to the world, which is kind of like one of the legends that gets introduced to us, where the there's there's weapons being formed in the hidden kingdom, which one of them is going to be forged there. That's going to be able to clear the dark beast and clear the four lord beasts that are in the dark continent. And then it kind of jumps forward in time, almost seemingly like Alicia was the one that initially she was initially having a dream about it, and as she's heading now into the dark continent as one of the main heroes, which we have 12 other main heroes that all have these forged weapons. So these forged weapons are regalia, and each one of them is forged with this specific stone, alcaranite or something like that, which this stone makes it possible for them to be able to injure these dark beasts. And I really found it really funny that they introduced us to all these heroes, uh, only for them to like right off the bat in the first like 20 minutes face off against one of the lord the four lord dark beasts, which is Clevatess. You know, the name of the show. He is the one that guards the Luna Mountain, which the Luna Mountain has a bunch of these crystals that form the weapons. So I thought, oh, okay, well, there's 13 heroes. So obviously, they're gonna put up a fight, and nope, they just quickly get swept away by by Clevatess. And I really found it really interesting that the first one to go out was the one that's like, yeah, I'm just I'm definitely gonna injure them. I'm definitely gonna take them down. And he's the one that's been riling up the other heroes to get in line with him because he is the strongest, and he's the first one that gets taken out, which in such a gruesome way that uh first of all uh, he got blitz, and he got left in such a distorted way where like his hands were backwards, his feet were like broken from the knee up. It was gruesome, and the other people didn't know like what was happening, how that happened. Like it was like a blink of an eye. Nobody saw how they did it, and after a couple more went and got taken out as well. Alicia, which is one of the main ones, also noticed. Well, she's the first one to notice that. It's your shadows. He can attack from your shadows. Don't. So if you're gonna go at him in the air or jump up, so that you're not, so your shadow doesn't show up and he can't attack you in that way. But that still wasn't enough. He still has a bunch of tails, that can attack at them even if they're in midair, and they kind of like lose that fight. Uh, but Alicia does manage to land a hit on his horn, and one of the really great things about this was that Clevatess was looking at them from afar, like, oh, how they make it this far, and then once he realized they were there, he's like, well, uh, I wonder why these weak insects are trying to end me, trying to invade our lands, and he definitely takes an interest in the motives behind the humans doing this, which is also very interesting because before Clavitus, I kind of just assumed that the dark dark beasts were just mindless monsters, but now that we met Clevatess, we can assume that the other Lord Beast are also have similar capabilities, like they're able to talk and think. They're not just mindless at the way they go about things. And as he takes care of all the humans that were sent, including Alicia, who she doesn't necessarily get completely wrecked like the other people, but she does end up dying. So, oh, the animation, by the way, really good. I really enjoyed the animation, and because the humans attacked Clevatess, he decided, well, I'm gonna go attack the humans. First of all, he just went first of all to talk to the king, but people kept getting in his way, so he's just like, well, you get in my way, I end you. Simple. And as he's like seeing them attack him, he starts noticing, oh, these humans really are the weak insects I thought. So what was so special about the other 13 that went after me? And then he remembers, oh well, it's probably the weapons. And the king, the king of the hidden kingdom, decided not to run away. He's like, well, if he's coming after us, there's no point in running away. We just have to make sure that the fire of hidden does not extinguish. Which now, given that the first episode ended, I can kind of not summarize, but I can kind of make a educated guess that this fire of Eden is the techniques that allow these red weapons to be formed from these special stones that the heroes had. And once Clevatess kind of meets with the king after wreaking havoc in town, he lets him know straight up, listen, I'm here to talk to you. But I will, depending on how you answer me, I will either end you here and now, or if I like your answer, I might let you live. So he wants to know why the humans have invaded him, and the king was like, well, don't talk to me in human speech. You don't deserve that. You're an animal. You're kind of like putting him out to be something he's not, kind of like belittling him, and also just trying to put up an image that he is not civil enough to be part of this society. So he's shunned from it. And then when he asks him, what does what is it? Like, he does not. He wants to know why they. So Clevatess wants to know why the king and all the humans want him dead. And why he's trying to invade this kingdom, what he's trying to accomplish. And the king's like, I don't have to answer to you. So off with the king. King said it goes. And then we get into the really great part of like what the show kind of is going towards. And Clevatess upon all the wreckage, he spots this child that's crying, and there's I guess, a nanny or someone or her mother maybe with the child, kind of begging Clevatess to take him with them. And I really love how they have the saying where it's like a child is not a child does not get to choose when or where they're born, because Clevatess tells her, like, yeah, you humans are not worth living or being kept alive, so I'm gonna destroy all of you. And so what difference does it make if I let this child live, if I'm gonna end up destroying humanity anyway? But somehow she convinces him that it'll be worth it to see what the child becomes, and he'll have an answer as to whether or not humans are really worth keeping around. So reluctantly, or because of her wishes, Clevatess is like, well, it won't hurt me to see if this child can provide the answer I want, because he's still gonna have to build up an army anyway before coming to the human kingdom and trying to overtake it with his dark beasts. So he leaves and takes the child with him, or the baby with him. And then we get another info dump, which I just really love it when they bring up the info dumps. And this is the info dump they brought halfway through the episode was about the human races that are in this world. So one of them are the Dunes, which are the greatest in numbers. So like there's more of them around, and they're basically skilled in architect and tactics, and they are the ones that are actually divided because they're so large. They're divided into two separate categories of Dune: the Eslan and the Boleta. It's going to be interesting to see how they both differ going forward. And the second race is the Orgites, which kind of look like Orgers, and these people are kind of like brave, and they live in the forests, where they kind of like excel in hunting and medicine. And then there's the Slatins, which are like the aquatic people who are skilled in swimming, seafaring, but unlike the Dunes, I'm assuming, and the Orgites, they don't really get along with the other human races, and they don't want to interact with them. And fourth, we have the Benti, which are barbarians, a barbarian race that lives in the wasteland. And they said that these specific type of humanoids are really powerful individually, but when it comes to cohesion, or like when it comes to them coming together, they don't work well with one another also. So kind of weak in that aspect. And then we have the Hedonians, which Clevatess just kind of obliterated the entire Hedonians. Who this is the specific type of race that are skilled in refining and forging metal, and this is the race that forged the weapons that they used against them. And specifically, only the royal family member is able to use these techniques, or is able to pass down these techniques to forge weapons with these stones that can damage them. The Arcanite stone that can damage Clevatess. So, and what's really interesting is that there's probably a lot of them mixed in with the Dunes, but there's not a lot of pure-blooded ones, which just in my head just made me realize, like, okay, well, it's obviously the baby that he picked up is probably of importance. It's going to be like a royal family that's pure-blooded, which at least the royal family aspect ends up being true in the later parts of the episode. And they also go on about like how the Dunes end up selling their weapons, and that's what led to the mix of race between the Dunes and the Hedonians. So then we cut to Clevatess just being the nice parent. Really really funny how he takes the child, just like dumps him to where bugs are that eat like uh poop and stuff, and picks it up with this pointy tail, and it's always complaining about like, man, you're such a handful. Am I really gonna have to wait till you're old to find my answer? It's like, ugh, I'm gonna need some help with this. So he ends up spotting Alicia, who's still kind of her whole body's still kind of intact. So he ends up reviving her. Uh, he used his Dark Igor to bring her back to life, but bringing her back to life comes with a cost. So she's essentially like just a puppet now. She doesn't have a free will of her own. She's bounded by whatever word or by whatever command Clevatess tells of her. And one of the commands he first says is like for her to like strip and feed the baby, but he didn't realize that she doesn't produce milk because she hasn't gone through motherhood. So in that aspect, we have Clevatess kind of like all knowing about the dark beast, but not necessarily knowing about humans. So it's gonna be a really interesting development seeing Clevatess learn about humans probably becoming more human like himself, and having Alicia, who's just as the series continues, probably gonna become less and less human like, or lose his hope and lose her humanity in the process. That's what I'm assuming, but time will tell. But Alicia kind of lets Clevatess know, like, okay, well, this child needs an a nanny or a wet nurse, something like that, I think she said. So they end up using some of the Alcasonites, taking them because they're gonna sell them in order to provide this wet nanny. And in doing so, Clevatess has decided, well, since I can't go out looking like a beast, I am gonna be able to shift my shadow in a way where I can look like human. And he gives himself the name Klein or Klein, and gives the baby name Luna, kind of like, so it's Luna because the moon, and because that he's in the Luna Mountain, really great stuff. And as we're seeing these two go on a journey to try to go to the next town, we start learning interesting things about Luna, and this is where we find out that Luna is actually from royal blood, and Alicia kind of blurts that out to Clevatess, and she realizes, oh shoot, probably shouldn't have said that, because now Clevatess has. At first, he was gonna wait and see if the child can provide an answer, but seeing as the child is of royal blood, he's like, well, I can probably use this to my advantage. He's like, I'm gonna make this child become the king or ruler of the humanoids, and I'm gonna be the one that's ruling from the shadows in actuality. So Luna is just gonna be used kind of like as a puppet for him to be able to rule the humans, or figure out how best to control the humans. Really, and Alicia just freaking out, like, shoot, well, I guess things are gonna go in that way, but there's still a lot of steps that have to happen before that even becomes reality. So she decides, as her last like hero act, that she's gonna make sure that Clevatess doesn't become the shadow ruler. And then they get whacked by random bandits, which Clevatess kind of gets hit really hard, and Alicia goes like, well, that's not gonna do anything to him. He's super tough. But in actuality, I think it was because he shifted into a human that he ended up becoming weaker in that human state, and wasn't able to absorb the blows as well. So that he ends up being knocked out, and then they knock out Alicia as well. Not a great fit, not a great look for like our hero in the end. And then we also have, aside from that, we have another thing that's going on with Hedonian Kingdom, that now because it's in ruin, the Dunes are trying to get at it. They're like, okay, well, now that the kingdom's in ruins, I hope we can manage to salvage the Alcacinide forging and take it before any other of the humans can do so. So this myth is probably really powerful tool for them. They can use it to sell weapons, be the next people to fully monopolize it, and really probably because the Dunes are the largest group and all, they can probably really arm themselves with a good enough army that eventually they'll probably form an expedition with themselves with a bunch of people with these weapons and try to overtake the Dark Continent or and get rid of the Dark Beasts. It's just really great stuff from this anime that I wasn't really expecting too much of. That its world building has been really good so far. The character Clevatess has been a really interesting character, and his motives now have really sparked my interest in him. Alicia's kind of interesting. I just really enjoy diving into a anime with some sort of politics behind it, and also having great characters to work within those politics. So I'm really enjoying it so far. The episode I think is a 9 out of 10. New Saga episode 1. Also, good episode. This anime also kind of nice. I want to talk about it. And it starts off having a really interesting first episode. I think this is one of those that starts off with instant world building, where we learn of the 5 humanoid races that are in this world, which are the humans, the elves, and the dwarves. And they let us know right away that these 3 races of humans have been gifted powers of light. And then we have the opposition of humans, which are the demons, which, although there's less of them, have been blessed with the power of darkness, and which individually just makes them already stronger than any human, and basically puts them against one another. One with great numbers, one with few numbers but greater strength. They're kind of like colliding for about 1,000 years, and then a new king kind of takes over the demon, and this lets them have a bit of peace for a while, and until like a new demon king overtakes this new one. So this new king that overtakes the moderate king, as they call them, just completely decides, ran out of the blue after a bit, to just launch an attack on the humans, which ends up being called like the Great Invasion, which it was really great. They completely decimated some of the largest human forces in existence, which kind of puts the humans already at the back foot and kind of have to regroup and have to take some drastic measures where they have to launch a suicide attack against this demon king to completely take him out and hopefully be able to end this war that is currently happening with them. So we have our main hero force already arriving at the castle, already facing some demons, and it's not looking good. One of them has to stay behind to make sure the others are able to go at the demon king and be there with the most energy intact to take him out. So our main hero, which is Kyle, kind of takes this potion, and it probably increases his strength to that of like a demon, or increases it like tenfold, something like that. We don't really know. We just know that Ursa looks at it and is kind of concerned because there's probably a heavy price to pay when you drink a potion that boosts your energy like that. But even though our human hero drank a potion to make himself stronger, it still was not enough. Like, this Demon King was attacking him with this skill called Elimination, which just completely obliterated everything it touches. And to the except him, for some reason, he was able to handle it to an extent. He didn't completely lose everything that the skill attacked for him, but it did cripple him a bit to the point where the mage he was with, Ursa, had to protect them and ended up paying for it with her life for it. So now it was just Kyle and the Demon King, and the fight is great. It's great for as short as it was. Like, Kyle has to charge at him. Demon King demonstrates that he can absorb his blow and reproduce his weapon on his arm. And in the back, you just see them like charge for their final attack. Kyle charges, and he's able to destroy the Demon King or end him. And even though he ended him, I love that we get the sense of oh, what's the point now? He beat the Demon King. He ended him, but there's nobody there to celebrate with them. His friend that he left behind in the castle, probably dead. Ursa, the one that was there, dead. He starts thinking about his parents, his family, his the person he loved being dead because of the Great Invasion. And he just realizes, well, I'm alone and there's no really any worth in my life here. So he's like, if only I could like prevent all this from happening, I would. And lo and behold, there's this crystal that was there the entire time in the background, just seemingly charging energy that he ends up seeing. So he goes up to it with the last bit of string he has. He touches it, and then it just sends him back in time, which confuses him. He's like, oh, what's happening? He sees the girl that he likes, and he hugs her, and she kind of like is not necessarily not happy, but she kind of is shocked with the fact that he put a move on her like that with no warning, no indication that he had any motives to do it prior, and he ends up paying with it with like a nice gut punch. But yeah, he realizes like, oh, okay, so I traveled back in time. He's like, I don't know how that's possible, but it's possible. And he notices the stone that brought him there. He's holding it, but it's no longer shining, so it lost probably all its power. And then he just goes about his day, sees that there's food for him, and he eats it because apparently when they were going through this big war back in the present day, he wasn't eating well or as good as he should. He was there, and then he eats it all. The friend that sacrificed himself earlier, or like later, sacrifices himself so that he can beat the Demon King, shows up and is like, well, since you ate all the food, consider it your birthday gift. Which he's not the only one that does that. The mother also like told him, well, you ate all the food, just consider it my birthday gift to you. And it's kind of like, well, you guys are kind of cheapskates, just get me a present. Don't don't be giving me pretending that the food that what's her name, Elisa, or Lise, Lise made for them made for him is their own gift. And I do love that in this episode we have him kind of going to talk to his mother, which the mother kind of like really liked because prior prior to everything that happened in the future, he didn't get to talk to her as much, so she always was like, well, something happened and we haven't talked as much, but I really enjoy our talks. So to me, that was like really, really nice seeing that he thought about his mother, not only because his mother is probably one of the best people that knows about magic there, but also because this is also a way for him to be able to spend time with his family that he didn't get to, that he didn't really do in his previous in the future, or like in his previous life. So this is a way for him to do that and also be able to come to get some knowledge on like how it was possible for him to travel back in time. And we learned that through this technique called the forbidden rite, it might be possible, but it would require like a huge amount of sacrifice to gather up the energy required for him to do that. And it just puts in perspective like, okay, so maybe this is exactly how what the demon king wanted. He wanted to get this much energy to be able to go back in time through this forbidden rite, which we find out is probably only the reason why he was able to do that. Why Kyle was able to go back in time was probably the divine dragon heart that he has on him. It is said that this divine heart was used by this kingdom that made him prosperous, but after it stopped shining or they stopped defeating it power, the kingdom completely fell into ruin after it no longer could hold any, after it used up all its power. So it feels like these dragon hearts are kind of like a double-edged sword. While it could help you a lot, it's also going to hinder you a lot. And we see that Kyle really enjoys seeing the town also, and he comes to a conclusion as he meets Lise in, I'm assuming, one of their usual spots where they normally meet, and he kind of just blurts out like, "Oh, you know what? I'm here 3 years in the past. I don't know how I don't know why I'm here, but while I'm here, I'm gonna defy faith. I'm gonna make sure that what happens in the future doesn't come to be, because in the future, his town, because it's near the demon demon side, demon territories. They're the first town that gets invaded in the Great Invasion, and that's how he ends up losing most of his loved ones through through the initial Great Invasion. And because he doesn't want to forget, like later on in the episode, we see that he's writing all the main events down in his notes as to not forget. Like, these are events that happened, and so he's gonna use that to his own advantage to make sure things don't happen. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this anime. I think it's great. I really enjoy that this is also an anime that has a bit of world building to it, it's gonna have a bit of romance to it. It seems like there's gonna be a great action to it, and overall, just really excited to have another anime that deals a bit in time travel, but it's looking like it could end up being good. But yeah, I'm excited for more. Rating it a 8 out of 10, but that's all the stuff I have to discuss tonight. So, YouTube, if you like any of the anime I discuss, if you want to be involved in any of the discussions I have later on, just, hit the like, hit the comment, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to catch things earlier, just come to the Twitch. I live stream all my discussions on Twitch before uploading sections of it to YouTube, or with less interruptions, of course. And until next time, bye. And until next time stream, see ya.